Welcome to the 1,000 Nights and 1 Night. Now, when it was the 509th night, she said, it hath reached me, O auspicious king, that Janshah saw many strange things, and admirable in that apartment. Then he entered the pavilion, and mounting the throne, fell asleep under the tent set up thereof. He slept for a while, and presently awaking, marvelled forth, and sat down on a stool before the door. As he sat marvelling at the goodliness of that place, there flew up from the mid-sky 3 birds in dove form, but big as eagles, and lighted on the brink of the basin, where they sported a while. Then they put off their feathers, and became 3 maidens, as they were moons, that had not their like in the whole world. They plunged into the basin, and swam about it, disporting themselves, and laughing, while Janshah marveled at their beauty and loveliness, and the grace and symmetry of their shapes. Presently they came up out of the water, and began walking about, and talking, and taking their solace in the garden. And Janshah, seeing them landed, was like to lose his wits. He rose and he followed them. When he overtook them, he saluted them, and they returned his salam. After which quoth he, Who are ye, O illustrious princesses, and whence come ye? Replied the youngest damsel, We are from the invisible world of Almighty Allah, and we come hither to divert ourselves. He marveled at their beauty, and said to the youngest, Have ruth on me, and deign kindness to me, and take pity on my case, and all that hath befallen me in my life. Rejoined she, Leave this talk, and wend thy ways. Whereat the tears streamed from his eyes, and he sighed heavily, and repeated these couplets. She shone out in the garden in garments of all green, with open vest and collars, and flowing hair be seen. What is thy name? I asked her, and she replied, I'm she, who roasts the hearts of lovers on coals of love and teen. Of passion and its anguish to her I made my moan. Upon a rock, she answered, thy plaints are wasted clean. Even if thy heart, I told her, be rock in very deed, yet hath God made fair water well from the rock, I ween. When the maidens heard these verses, they laughed and played and sang and made merry. Then he brought them somewhat of fruits, and they ate and drank and slept with him till the morning, when they donned their feather suits, and resuming dove shape, flew off and went their way. But as he saw them disappearing from sight, his reason well nigh fled with them, and he gave a great cry, and fell down in a fainting fit, and lay a swooning all that day. While he was in this case, Sheikh Nashir returned from the parliament of the fowls, and sought for Janshah, that he might send him with them to his native land. But he found him not, and knew that he had entered the forbidden room. Now he had already said to the birds, With me is a young man, a mere youth, whom destiny brought hither from a distant land, and I desire of you that you take him up and carry him to his own country. And all answered, We hear, and we obey. So he ceased not searching for Janshah till he came to the forbidden door, and seeing it open he entered, and found the prince lying swooning under a tree. He fetched scented waters and sprinkled them on his face, whereupon he revived and turned. And Shahrazad perceived the dawn of the day, and ceased to say her permitted say. Now, when it was the 510th night, she said, It hath reached me, O auspicious king, that when Sheikh Nashir saw Janshah lying a swooning under the tree, he fetched him somewhat of scented waters, and sprinkled them on his face. Thereupon he revived, and turned right and left, but seeing none by him save the sheikh, sighed heavily, and repeated these couplets. Like fullest moon she shines on happiest night, soft-sided fair, with slender shape bedight. Her eye-babes charm the world with gramarye, her lips remind of rose and ruby light. Her jetty locks make night upon her hips. Where, lovers, where ye of the curls despite? Yea, soft sides are, but in the love her heart out-hardens flint surpasses cyanite, and bows of eyebrows shower glancy shafts, despite the distance ne'er failed to smite. Then her beauty, all the fair it passes, nor any rival her with who see the light. When Sheikh Nashir heard these verses, he said, O my son, Did I not warn thee not to open that door and enter that room? But now, O my son, tell me what thou sawest therein, and acquaint me with all that betided thee. So Janshah related to him all that had passed between him and the 3 maidens, and Sheikh Nashir, who sat listening in silence, said, Know, O my son, that these 3 maidens are the daughters of the Jan, and come hither every year for a day to divert themselves and make merry until mid-afternoon, when they return to their own country. Janshah asked, And where is their country? And the old man answered, By Allah, O my son, I wot not. Presently adding, But now take heart, and put away this love from thee, and come with me, that I may send thee to thine own land with the birds. When Janshah heard this, he gave a great cry, and fell down in a trance, and presently he came to himself and said, O my father, indeed I care not to return to my native land. All I want is to foregather with these maidens, and know, O my father, that I will never again name my people, though I die before thee. Then he wept, and he cried, Enough for me that I look upon the face of her I love, although it be once in a year. And he sighed deeply, and repeated these couplets. Would heaven the phantom spared the friend at night, and would this love for man were ever dight! Were not my heart afire for love of you, tears, nigh, had stained my cheeks, nor dimmed my sight. By night and day I bid my heart to bear its griefs, while fires of love my body blight. Then he fell at Sheikh Nashir's feet, and kissed them, and wept sore, crying, Have pity on me, so Allah take pity on thee, and aid me in my strait, so Allah aid thee. Replied the old man, By Allah, O my son, I know nothing of these maidens, nor where there may be their country, but, O my son, if thy heart be indeed set on one of them, tarry with me till this time next year, for they will assuredly reappear. And when the day of their coming draweth near, hide thyself under a tree in the garden. As soon as they have alighted and doffed their feather robes, and plunged into the lake, and are swimming about at a distance from their clothes, seize the vest of her whom thy soul desireth. When they see thee, they will come a bank, and she whose coat thou hast taken will accost thee, and say to thee with the sweetest of speech and the most witching of smiles, Give me my dress, O my brother, that I may don it and veil my nakedness withal. But if thou yield to her prayer, and give her back the vest, thou wilt never win thy wish. Nay, she will don it and fly away to her folk, and thou wilt never more see her again. Now when thou hast gained the vest, clap it under thine armpit, and hold it fast till I return from the parliament of the fowls, when I will make accord between thee and her, and send thee back to thy native land, and the maiden with thee. And this, O my son, is all I can do for thee, nothing more. And Shahrazad perceived the dawn of the day, and ceased to say her permitted say. Now, when it was the 511th night, she said, It hath reached me, O auspicious king, that quoth Sheikh Nashir to Janshah, Hold fast the feather robe of her thy soul desireth, and give it not back to her till I return from the parliament of the fowls. And this, O my son, is all I can do for thee, nothing more. When Janshah heard this, his heart was solaced, and he abode with Sheikh Nashir yet another year, counting the days as they passed until the day of the coming of the birds. And when at last the appointed time arrived, and the old man said to him, Do as I enjoin thee, and charge thee with the maidens in the matter of the feather dress, for I go to meet the birds. And Janshah replied, I hear, and I obey, O my father. Then the sheikh departed whilst the prince walked into the garden and hid himself under a tree where none could see him. Here he abode a first day, and a second, and a third. But the maidens came not, whereat he was sore troubled, and wept, and sighed from a heart hard tried, and he ceased not weeping and wailing till he fainted away. When he came to himself, he fell to look now at the basin, and now at the welkin, and anon at the earth, and anon at the open country, whilst his heart grieved for stress, for of long longing. As he was about in this case, behold, the 3 doves appeared in the firmament, eagle-sized as before, and flew till they reached the garden and lighted down beside the basin. They turned right and left, and saw no one, and saw no man or Jan. So they doffed their feather suits and became 3 maidens. Then they plunged into the basin and swam about, laughing and frolicking, and all were mother naked and fair as bars of virgin silver. Quoth the eldest, O my sister, I fear lest there be someone lying ambushed for us in the pavilion. Answered the second, O sister, since the days of King Solomon, none hath entered the pavilion, be he man or Jan. And the youngest added, laughing, By Allah, O my sisters, if there is any one hidden there, he will assuredly take none but me. Then they continued sporting and laughing, and Janshah's heart kept fluttering for stress of passion. But he hid behind the trees so that he saw without being seen. Presently they swam out to the middle of the basin, leaving their clothes on the bank. Hereupon he sprang to his feet, and running like the darting love into the basin's brink, snatched up the feather vest of the youngest damsel, on whom his heart was set, and whose name was Shamsah, the sun maiden. At this the girls turned, and seeing him were affrighted, and veiled their shame from him in the water. Then they swam near shore, and looking on his favor, saw that he was bright-faced as the moon on the night of fullness, and asked him, Who art thou, and how camest thou hither, and why hast thou taken the clothes of the lady Shamsah? And he answered, Come hither to me, and I will tell you my tale. Quoth Shamsah, What deed is this, and why dost thou take my clothes rather than those of my sisters? Quoth he, O light of mine eyes, come forth of the water, and I will recount thee my case, and acquaint thee why I chose thee out. Quoth she, O my lord, and coolth of my eyes, and fruit of my heart, give me my clothes, that I may put them on, and cover my nakedness withal. Then will I come forth to thee. But he replied, O princess of beautiful ones, how can I give thee back thy clothes, and slay myself for love-longing? Verily, I will not give them to thee, till Sheikh Nasir, the king of the birds, shall return. Quoth she, If thou wilt not give me my clothes, withdraw a little apart from us, that my sisters may land and dress themselves, and lend me somewhat wherewithal to cover my shame. I hear and obey, answered he, and walked away from them into the pavilion, whereupon the 3 princesses came out, and the 2 elder, donning their dress, gave Shamsah somewhat thereof, not enough to fly withal, and she put it on, come forth of the water, and stood before him. And she were the rising full moon, or a browsing gazelle. Then Shamsah entered the pavilion, where Janshah was still sitting on the throne. So she saluted him, and taking seat near him, said, O fair of face, thou hast undone thyself and me, but tell us thy adventures, that we may ken how it is with thee. At these words he wept, till he drenched his dress with his tears. And when she saw that he was distracted for love of her, she rose, and taking him by the hand, made him sit by her side, and wiped away the drops with her sleeves, and said, O fair face, leave this weeping, and tell us thy tale. So he related to her all that had befallen him, and described to her all that he had seen. And Shahrazad perceived the dawn of the day, and ceased to say her permitted say. Now, when it was the 512th night, she continued, It hath reached me, O auspicious king, that the lady Shamsah said to Janshah, Tell us thy tale. So he related to her all that had befallen him, and after she had lent attentive ear, and sighed, and said, O my lord, since thou art so fondly in love with me, give me my dress, that I may fly to my folk, I and my sisters, and tell them what affection thou hast conceived for me, and after I will come back to thee, and carry thee to mine own country. When he heard this, he wept sore, and replied, Is it lawful to thee before Allah to slay me wrongfully? She asked, O my lord, why should I do such a wrongsome deed? And he answered, If I give thee thy gear, thou wilt fly away at me, and I shall die forthright. Princess Shamsah laughed at this, and so did her sisters. Then said she to him, Be of good cheer, and keep thine eyes cool and clear. I must needs marry thee. So saying, she bent down to him, and embraced him, and pressing him to her breast, kissed him between the eyes and his cheeks. They clipped and clasped each other a while, after which they drew apart and sat down on the throne. Then the eldest princess went out into the garden, and plucking somewhat of fruits and flowers, brought them into the pavilion, and they ate and drank and laughed and sported and made merry. Now Janshah was singular in beauty and loveliness, and slender shape and symmetry and grace, and the princess Shamsah said to him, O my beloved, by Allah, I love thee with exceeding love, and will never leave thee. When he heard her words, his breast broadened, and he laughed for joy till he showed his teeth. And they abode thus a while in mirth and gladsome and frolic. And when they were at the height of their pleasure and joyance, behold, Sheikh Nashir returned from the parliament of the fowls, and came into them. Whereupon they all rose to him, and saluted him, and kissed his hands. He gave them welcome, and bade them be seated. So they sat down, and he said to Princess Shamsah, Verily, this youth loveth thee with exceeding love. Allah upon thee deal kindly with him, for he is of the great ones of mankind, and of the sons of the kings, and his father ruleth over the land of Kabul, and his reign compasseth a mighty empire. Quoth she, I hear, and I obey thy behest, and kissing the sheikh's hand, stood before him in respect. Quoth he, If thou say sooth, swear to me by Allah that thou wilt never betray him, what while thou abidest in the bonds of life. So she swore a great oath that she would never betray Janshah, but would assuredly marry him, and added, Know, O Sheikh Nashir, that I never will forsake him. The sheikh believed in her oath, and said to Janshah, Thanks be to Allah, who hath made you arrive at this understanding. Hereupon the prince rejoiced with exceeding joy, and he and Shamsah abode 3 months with Sheikh Nashir, feasting and toying and making merry. And Shahrazad perceived the dawn of the day, and ceased to say her permitted say. Now, when it was the 513th night, she said, It hath reached me, O auspicious king, that the lady Shamsah abode 3 months with Sheikh Nashir, feasting and toying and making merry. And at the end of that time she said to Janshah, I wish to go with thee to thy motherland, where thou shalt marry me, and we will abide there. To hear is to obey, answered he, and took counsel with Sheikh Nashir, who said to him, Go thou home, I commend her to thy care. Then said she, O Sheikh Nashir, bid him render me my feather suit. So the sheikh bade Janshah give it to her, and he went straightways into the pavilion, and brought it out for her. Thereupon she donned it, and said to him, Mount my back, and shut thine eyes, and stop thine ears, so thou mayest not hear the roar of the revolving sphere, and keep fast hold of my feathers, lest thou fall off. He did as she bade him, and as she stretched her wings to fly, Sheikh Nashir said, Wait a while, till I describe to thee the land of Kabul, lest you twain miss your way. So she delayed till he said his way, and had bidden them farewell, commending the prince to her care. She took leave of her sisters, and bade them return to her folks, and tell them what had befallen her with Janshah. Then rising into the air without stay or delay, she flew off like the wafts of the wind or the lamping levin. Her sisters also took flight, and returning home delivered their message to the people. And she stayed not her course from the forenoon till the hour of mid-afternoon prayer, Janshah being still on her back, when she espied afar off a wadi, abounding in trees and streams, and said to Janshah, I am thinking to alight in this valley, that we may solace ourselves amongst this trees and herbage, and here rest for the night. Quoth he, Do what seemeth best to thee. So she swooped down from the lift, and alighted in the wadi, when Janshah dismounted, and kissing her between the eyes, sat with her a while on the bank of the river. Then they rose and wandered about the valley, taking their pleasure therein, and eating of the fruits of the trees until nightfall, when they lay down under a tree, and slept till the morning dawned. As soon as it was day, the princess arose, and bidding Janshah mount, flew on with him till noon, when she perceived by the appearance of the buildings which Sheikh Nashir had described to her, that they were nearing the city Kabul. So she swooped down from the welkin, and alighted in a wide plain, a blooming champaign, wherein there were gazelles straying, and springs playing, and rivers flowing, and ripe fruits growing. So Janshah dismounted, and kissed her between the eyes, and she asked him, O my beloved, and cooleth of mine eyes, knowest how many days' journey we have come since yesterday? And he answered, No. When she said, We have come 30 months' journey, quoth he, Praise be Allah for safety. Then they sat down side by side, and ate and drank and toyed and laughed. And whilst they were thus pleasantly engaged, behold, they came up to them 2 of the king's Mamelukes, of those who had been of the prince's company. One of them was he whom he had left with the horses when he embarked in the fishing boat, and the other had been of his escort in the chase. As soon as they saw Janshah, both knew him and saluted him, and they said to him, With thy leave we will go to thy sire, and bear him the glad tidings of thy coming. Replied the prince, Go ye to my father, and acquaint him with my case, and fetch us tents, for we will tarry here 7 days to rest ourselves, till he make ready his retinue to meet us, and that we may enter in the stateliest state. And Shahrazad perceived the dawn of the day, and ceased to say her permitted say. Now, when it was the 514th night, she continued, It hath reached me, O auspicious king, that Janshah said to the 2 Mamelukes, Go you to my sire, and acquaint him with my case, and fetch us tents, for we will abide here 7 days to rest ourselves, till he make ready his retinue to meet us, that we may return into the stateliest of state. So the officers hastened back to King Tegmas, and said to him, Good news, O king of the age! Asked he, What good tidings bring us? Is my son Janshah come back? And they answered, Yes! Thy son Janshah hath returned from his strangerhood, and is near at hand in the Karani mead. Now when the king heard this, he joyed with great joy, and fell down in a swoon for excess of gladness. Then coming to himself, he bade his wazir give such of the Mamelukes a splendid suit of honor, and a sum of money. The minister replied, I hear and obey, and forthright did the bidding, and said to them, Take this in turn for the good tidings ye bring, whether you lie or say sooth. They replied, Indeed we lie not. For but we sat with him, and saluted him, and kissed his hands, and he bade us fetch him tents, that he would sojourn in the meadow 7 days, till such time as the wazirs and emirs and grandees should come out to meet him. Quoth the king, How is it with my son? And quoth they, He hath with him a houri, and he had brought her out of paradise. At this King Tegmas bade beat the kettle drums and sound the trumpets for gladness, and dispatched messengers to announce the good news to Janshah's mother, and to the wives of the emirs and the wazirs and the lords of the realm, so that the criers spread themselves about the city, and acquainted the people with the coming of Prince Janshah. Then the king made ready, and setting out for the Karani meadow with his horsemen and footmen, came upon Janshah, who was sitting at rest with the lady Shamsah beside him. And behold, all suddenly drew in sight. The prince rose to his feet and walked forward to meet them. And the troops knew him, and dismounted to salute him and kiss his hands, after which he set out, preceded by the men in single file, till he came to his sire, who at sight of his son threw himself from his horse's back, and clasped him to his bosom, and wept, flooding of tears of joy. Then they took horse again, with the retinue riding to the right and left, and fared forward till they came to the river banks, when the troops alighted, and pitched their tents and pavilions and standards to the blare of trump, and the piping of fife, and the dub-dub of the drum and tom-tom. Moreover, the king bade the tent pitchers set up a pavilion of red silk for the Princess Shamsah, who put off her scanty raiment of feathers for fine robes, and entering the pavilion there took seat. And as she sat in her beauty, behold, the king and his son Janshah came into her, and when she saw Tegmas, she rose and kissed the ground before him. The king sat down, and sitting Janshah on his right hand, and Princess Shamsah on his left, bade her welcome, and said to his son, Tell me all that hath befallen thee in this thy long strangerhood. So Janshah related to him the whole of his adventure, from first to last, whereat he marveled with exceeding marvel, and turning to the princess said, Laud to Allah, for that he hath caused thee to reunite me with my son. Verily, this is of his exceeding bounty. And Shahrazad perceived the dawn of the day, and ceased saying her permitted say. And so do I cease telling my tale for today, until it be morrow.